Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with yet another White Forest variant. This is like the 5th one that I've covered on the channel so far. And we've seen other variants like the lab one, the latest viewer special. That last viewer special that I think went up yesterday at the time this video is going out. That was insane. There were so many grind games. Definitely go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. But yeah, Horus White Forest. So this is a variant that I saw actually on Road of the Meta, or Road of the King had a recent tournament report from a team tournament in the OCG for Master Duel specifically, and one of the teams that got top 8 was on this kind of a Horus White Forest list. So I decided to go ahead and give it a little bit of a try myself. I think the biggest difference is that I'm only on 1 Tails instead of 2 like they were, because I only own 1. I think you only really need 1 anyway, although, to be fair, a second Tails would definitely not be bad in a deck like this, because the activation condition for it is simply that you control an illusion or a spellcaster monster, not necessarily a White Forest card. And this deck takes a lot of advantage of the fact that Imseti is actually a spellcaster monster. Not only in that regard of how it works with Tails, but we are also playing the Secret Village of the Spellcasters. But Hex, you never play Floodgates! I thought you said you hated Floodgates! I think I did say in a recent video that I tend to not like playing Floodgates, mostly because I think of them as dedicated going first cards, which I mean is true of the Secret Village as well, but I do like that it's searchable. That makes it a lot more appealing to me. Those random like one-off skill drains and summon limits, and you know there can be only ones, I'm not above doing something like that. If I'm going to do it in best of 1 ranked ladder, I'd prefer it to be more consistent. That was the thing. But the Rainbow Bridge of Salvation does make the Secret Village quite consistent. Not just the Secret Village, but of course also the Walls of the Imperial Tomb. One thing I thought was pretty interesting about this list is that despite playing 3 walls and the 3 Rainbow Bridge to search it, we're not on that many Horus cards. It's just 3 Imseti and 1 Hoppy, which doesn't look like a lot. I mean, it's not, especially compared to other Horus variants like Horus Naturia, right? I was gonna say Runic for a second there. Yeah, no, we see in variants like that the Horus engine is much more important to the build, but really here it's more here to kind of complement the White Forest deck. It was kind of true of White Forest Runic as well, where it's not that the other engine, be it Runic or Horus or whatever, is vital for White Forest to be able to make plays. It's kind of more that like they just by circumstance happen to help the White Forest deck make its plays. It's funny because like with other archetypes where they have a lot of different variants, like Sprite, for example, it tends to be more Sprite helping whatever deck it's in, whatever archetype it's paired with, make its plays. But White Forest is a little bit of the opposite in certain variants like this one, and again in Runic, I feel, where it's like you're really more focused on actually playing out the White Forest line, and then if you happen to be able to do your other engine, or if you happen to be able to use your other engine to make White Forest plays, you tend to prefer that, or focus more on that, if that makes any sense. Let's see here. Anything else, any other thoughts I want to say about this deck? We are playing Still Hat in this deck, and we're actually playing it with its kind of dedicated continuous trap monster. It doesn't actually require Still Hat Rabbit, but Still Hat is in the art. This potentially represents multiple negates, which is nice, alongside, of course, the spell trap pop from the Still Hat. Do note about Still Hat Trick, though, that this is like Mirror Logic Aggregator in Math Mech, and what I mean by that is that if you want to, for example, let's say your opponent's, I think we actually see an example of this. I think we see multiple examples of this in the games we're going to watch, actually. Let's say your opponent is on Branded, and they activate Fusion Deployment, and you have a Still Hat Trick set, and you want to negate an Albaz that's going to be summoned off of the Fusion Deployment. You don't chain the Still Hat Trick to the summon of Albaz, because this starts a new chain link. So if your opponent summons Albaz and activates the effect, and you chain Still Hat Trick to the effect, then Still Hat effect will simply summon itself, and then Albaz will activate anyway. And then after that chain link, you'll get a chance to activate the if this card is special summoned effect. So you would need to chain the Scylla Hat trick to the fusion deployment. That way the Albaz effect and then the negate effect end up on the same chain link. Again, that might sound a little confusing, but you'll see multiple examples of that in the games we got coming up here. I think for the most part, though, this list is pretty self-explanatory as far as what it's trying to do. Ideally, you have a live secret village plus, like, some negates up. Maybe in the form of number 90 as well. But it's mostly just about, I don't know, it's kind of one of those decks where you just kind of play out your hand. Like, I don't know how else to really explain it. If you already know how to play White Forest, then there's not really any specific lines here. We're just using these Horus cards to, again, kind of help us do those lines, if that makes any sense. But yeah, anyway, why don't we go ahead and break this list down card by card, and then we'll start looking at some games. We're on 1 Effect Failure, 3 Max C, 3 Esteller of the White Forest, 3 LZ of the White Forest, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 1 Crystal Beast Cobalt Eagle is our search target for Rainbow Bridge. We have 3 Sylvie of the White Forest, 1 Rukia of the White Forest, 3 Imseti Glory of Horus, 1 Hoppy Guidance of Horus, 1 Tails of the White Forest. Again, if you own more than one, I definitely do advise playing more than one. I'm only playing one because that's all I have, but it's still definitely feasible, workable. Anyway, 1 Secret Village of the Spellcasters, 3 Walls of the Imperial Tomb, 2 King's Sarcophagus, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 3 Infinite Impermanence, 3 Rainbow Bridge of Salvation, 1 Woes of the White Forest, and finally 1 Scylla Hat Trick. That's going to be our main deck. For the extra, we're on 1 Formula Synchron, 1 Silvera Wolf Tamer of the White Forest, 1 Rakila Sinister Soul of the White Forest, 1 Diabel Queen of the White Forest, 1 Baron de Fleur, 1 Chaos Angel, 1 number 41 Baguska, the terribly tired Tapir, 1 number 90 Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord, 1 The Zombie Vampire, 1 Super Starslayer Typhon Sky Crisis, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 SP Little Knight, 1 Scylla Hat Rabbit, 1 Celine Queen of the Master Magicians, and finally 1 Access Code Talker. That's going to do it for our list. Let's watch some of these games now. Alright, being that these are Duelist Cup games, I don't know off the top of my head what all of my opponents are going to be on, so why don't we just go... We're just going to watch the replays in the order that I saved them. So this was the first game that I had saved, this going second duel here. And I was really eager to go second here, as you can see, having Maxi, Ash Blossom, Imperm. This is a phenomenal hand overall, but especially for going second, because it not only has 3 very powerful hand traps, but also live plays. But our opponent simply set 2 and then pass, which, when it's set 2 and then pass, I mean, that could be anything. That could be like a quote-unquote regular combo deck that had a bad hand. It could be a stun deck that also had kind of a bad hand. We're just gonna have to figure it out here. So but it's going to Ash Blossom the Rainbow Bridge here. That's a bit of a downer, as I really was planning on having access to that secret village here to kind of help me out. But yeah, even as I go to dump the Hoppy, my opponent's going to use a Called By on that. This sort of tells me that they're probably a more regular combo style deck that kind of didn't have a great hand, right? You'll note, of course, that I set Imperm directly across from the back row. I mean, this does give away exactly what card I set, but at the same time, I don't know if my opponent's really in a situation where that information is going to help them, because they're already in top deck mode, right? They already need to be able to top deck something good to be able to make plays, and just the fact that I have these in general is already, like, I think good enough here. Wow, yeah, they're just going to T-set and then pass? Well, I guess set a monster on a back row, right? Okay, so here I'm going to use King Sark to dump the Imseti. They're going to chain Imperm on my Imseti. This is, of course, not to negate my Imseti effect, but to negate my King Sark effect. However, unbeknownst to them, I don't even have another name to send. So this is actually completely fine with me, them using Imperm here. And then they conceded? What? So... yeah, I mean, I think we didn't even get to see what they were... No wonder I didn't know what this deck was on. We didn't get to see what they were playing. So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, I could have potentially gone, into like an SP Little Knight, but I didn't have an effect monster to do it with, so I want to get the first Banish effect. I don't think that's worth giving up Maxi or Ash Blossom. I don't have a Psychic End Punisher, so I can't make level 11 with Ash Blossom. Probably just would have been more Imseti beats there, honestly. And, I mean, sometimes that's enough to get you there. That's a thing that's pretty consistently true of Horus decks. If nothing else, they are good at getting out a bunch of really big bodies. And when it comes to simplified game states, having big bodies plus hand traps is actually just enough to win games. So, sorry, I thought I saw going second 3 turns, and I was like, ooh, this must be a good back and forth game. And then it kind of wasn't. We do have some more engaging ones, I promise. Let's go ahead and find one here. Let's see the next duel. All right, this duel is 5 turns. It's got to be better, right? Nah, it's all good. Yeah, I think I actually do kind of remember this one. All right, so we're going to get to take the first turn here. And, okay, we have the walls. We don't really have access to White Forest stuff. I promise we will show us doing White Forest stuff in one of these games. My opponent's going to use the Ash Blossom on the walls of the Imperial Tomb here. So, as you can see with just the Scylla Hat trick and a bunch of hand traps, there's not really much else I can do. That said, again, when you're in a simplified game state, whoever has more interruptions plus a threat is going to be able to come out on top, right? And hand traps also have the ability to simplify game states. So the idea is that if I can use my hand traps to basically counter, and also the Scylla Hat trick to counter all my opponent's cards here, then having Walls of the Imperial Tomb should, in theory, hopefully be enough to get me there. We'll see how that plays out here. Alright, opponent's going to start with the Bishop Lubellion. I see that going for Sarnier plus 60 cards, I'm assuming branded. I'm not only not using Ash Blossom yet, but I'm also toggling off here. Because as my opponent is gold starking for a Tragedy, I can kind of sense that they're prodding and testing for the Ash Blossom. Sure enough, after a couple of Ash Blossom triggers, they are going to use the Branded Fusion, and now I'm going to Ash Blossom. So this is actually kind of a situation where I wish I was shown the live game instead of the replay, because you don't get to see me toggling with the auto on-off here. But yeah, so for those who don't know, if we go into, oh, I can't see game settings in the middle of a game, never mind. But in my game settings, I have it so that on my mouse, I can hold right and left click to toggle off and on, respectively. So as my opponent was playing these cards that are triggered by Ash Blossom, I'm toggling off to make sure my opponent does not know that I have it. That way they feel comfortable throwing out the Branded Fusion without, you know, having to try to bait out or plan for a backup play, and we can just get them. Alright, so I'm going to follow up with a triple attack to look at my hand and try to hand rip here. I'm of course going to chain Max C to that, because they would just take the Max C anyway, and I'd rather have that resolved than this effect failure, so. Alright, so now they're going to summon out the Aliver. Aliver adding Branded in red, of course, because they've already used stuff. Okay, so here's the example I was talking about before, where they're going to activate Fusion Deployment, so I'm going to chain my Scylla Hat trick now. I actually don't think they're going to go for Albaz here. I think it's going to be more like Cartesia, but I think this is still going to be one of the better chances I can get to maybe negate something here. I mean, if nothing else, it forces my opponent to activate Cartesia here. They might have been planning on saving it to use on my turn, but by making them use it here, I'm going to get myself another draw off the Maxi. Although they probably were just going to use it anyway, to be fair. I also definitely should have summoned the Scylla Hat trick in defense mode. I totally forgot that it can't be destroyed by battle. So I took some unnecessary battle damage here, but 2,000 points is not that big of a deal in a matchup like this. It's probably not going to come down to that. Although, to be fair, this is already proving to be a game where things are looking kind of grindy. So they have a Branded Lost. We know the last card is branded in red, and then now we know they have a Cartesia in hand as well. Okay, so the set card is branded in red, and the card in hand is Cartesia. Secret Village is a pretty phenomenal top deck here. Although the problem with Secret Village against branded is that they play a good amount of spellcasters. Kranganol as well as the Cartesia in hand are both spellcasters. So, like, yeah, I can get Imseti here, but like, so okay, if I was playing against like any other deck, or even if I was in any other board state where they didn't have a spellcaster in line, then the instant Imseti hit the field, I would have tried to activate Secret Village as soon as possible, right? To make sure that the Branded red can go off. But again, they have a spellcaster, so it doesn't really matter if I get Secret Village online right now. I'm just going to try to battle first here. battling Hoppy into Grangadol to try to proc the King's Sark effect. They're going to chain the Brandon Red and go for the Guardian Chimera, which I was a little worried they were going to pop both of my Horus monsters with a Guardian Chimera. That would have been actually very devastating here. But instead, what they end up doing is they pop the King Sark in the field spell, and I'm like, that is 100% fine. You not only trigger both of my Horus abilities, but I don't have any other names I need to send anyway. This is so unbelievably fine. I get to Hoppy and add back Max C and Ash Blossom here. That is so good. Oh man, that's devastating. To be fair, I probably should have just banished their Branded Fusion instead of adding back maybe one of these hand traps, but I just got really excited and I was like, ooh, I get to add back some really powerful hand traps. I get to set them down to 1100 life points, making it very easy for me to lethal on the next turn. Going into the SP Little Knight, I can then now make the Secret Village live while setting Imperm and Woes and having 3 hand traps. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points of interaction. Well, Woes is debatable, but it's multiple points of interaction, at least 5, not including the Secret Village locking down spells. Now again, if my opponent summons that Cartesia, they're going to be able to activate spells again, which they can and will. But we simply Ash Blossom again. Oh, it's so good. And if they try to activate Cartesia, it's like, yeah, we have the Valor, we have the Imperm, and the SP, all of which would serve to nullify it. But here, I'm just going to move into battle phase and then beat my opponent down for lethal. So yeah, we didn't really get to do White Forest shenanigans in that game, but despite going first, we're still in a situation where we were essentially going second, having to rely on hand traps to stop our opponent from being able to make plays, and we were able to successfully do so. Very good stuff. All right, got one last duel to show you. Let's finish off with that one. I'm remembering this is our other game against Branded now. Yeah, this is because I know we have multiple, so this has to be the other one here. We're going first again. And hey, we opened White Forest stuff. Let's go. I should have led with this replay. I pretty much should have played these replays in the opposite order for this video, but you know what? It's not a big enough deal that I'm going to re-record. I don't have time for that. God damn, I don't have time for that. Anyway. Rakila. Yeah, we're just going for a pretty standard White Forest line, and then at the end of it, I'm going to maybe throw in some Horus stuff. But Lex, you might ask, how are you able to throw in your Horus stuff? You just had to pitch your King Sark in order to be able to do your White Forest plays. And I actually first initially thought that when I was playing out this game as well. I actually forgot until I went to Synchro Summon the Diabell that I was like, oh yeah, I can just add back my King Sark now and just do Horus stuff. Yeah, so we're going to LZ pitch that Woes, specialing and then adding the Rukia. I will say, I think this deck needs some level 12 synchros. Because this was kind of one of those games, one of those turn ones where I was like, ooh, if I could go into a solid level 12 synchro, like even a Crimson Dragon for a Crystal Wing would be really, really good. Maybe throwing in a Synchro Rumble. Oh, but here we get to do something very nice. You might not have noticed that, because I didn't really point it out, but we were able to make that Chaos Angel with Alzet plus Imseti. That is actually something very nice that you can do in this deck with the Horus cards in particular, is that we have a Dark level 8 and then multiple level 2 lights. And even though neither are tuners, of course, Chaos Angel doesn't necessarily require a tuner to be able to Synchro Summon. It can treat any light or dark monster as a tuner, right? So being able to make a Chaos Angel off of, and have both effects be live is very, very good, of course. And by bringing back Hoppy here, I can actually set myself up to summon a 10 with Formula next turn and not use Diabell to do it. Oh, and then we also get to go for Silahat here. I could have made IP or SP instead, and I think that probably would have been better to make either of those, but gotta try out the new card, right? So we're gonna make the Silahat here. Setting the Silahat trick and then passing. But yeah, so like during my opponent's turn, I can Diabell bring out Formula and then Formula plus Hoppy in order to make like the Baron, right? Which will be nice to keep the Diabell around because, again, thanks to Chaos Angel, it can't be destroyed by battle and is unaffected by my opponent's activated effects. So I would definitely rather have her on the field than the Hoppy, with that being the case. Okay, resetting woes. We won't get to use woes, but I think that's fine. I don't think that's that big of a deal. I mean, especially against Branded, turning their board face down doesn't really do nearly as much, right? Because you can still fuse with face down monsters. Okay, here they're going to go for a thrust. I'm going to Ash Boss on that. Even though I saw them banish the Sprayins kit, and I knew they were Branded, I'm still going to use my Ash here, because I'd rather use that, I think, than, like, my Baron right now. Again, fusion deployment, we have to chain the Silhouette trick to that, because here they would definitely want to summon Albaz. But we're still going to use the Silhouette trick to negate the Cartesia here. They're going to normal summon Aliver. Aliver is going to add the Branded fusion. And then from there, we are, of course, going to use the Baron de Fleur against the Branded fusion here. I feel much better knowing this card is finally negated and out of the way. And they're just going to concede in response to that. That was our last point of interaction, I think, to be fair. But also, again, we have our Chaos Angel up with multiple Synchro Monsters, and as a result of making it with Imseti plus LZ, none of those 3 Synchro Monsters can be destroyed by battle and are unaffected by our opponent's activated monster effects. So I think, because it still had a couple of cards in hand, but I think even if those were live, like, they would have had a very hard time breaking this board. So yeah, good stuff. That's going to go ahead and do it for this one. Thank you as always for watching. And definitely let me know what you think of the build and what changes you think could be made. Again, I think we could do with some level 12 synchros in here personally, but like I said, that'll be all. This is Hexlex. Oh, you know what? I almost was about to say my outro, but I have one pre-prepared. Let's move into our outro now. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Just want to give you a huge thanks for watching all the way to the very end of the video. Believe it or not, that is actually one of the best ways that you can support the channel, is by watching the videos in their entirety. But there are many ways in which you can support the channel if you are so interested. The names that you're seeing on screen here, I gotta give an extra special thanks to, because these are people who have chosen to either become a member on YouTube, which if you're interested you can do as well via the join button next to the subscribe button down there, or have signed up over on Patreon and become members there. Link to that is going to be in the description below. Without the support that is being offered by, again, all the people that you're seeing on screen right here, I would not be able to take the time to dedicate to uploading daily YouTube videos. So thank you so very much. But there are also other ways you can support as well. Again, link to the description below. If you like my deck tracker that you'll see in a lot of my videos, the Untapped Companion, you can download that for free, and if you use my affiliate link down there, then that also goes a long way towards supporting the channel. That's, again, free. So is subscribing here on YouTube. That's also free and a huge way to support. You can also check out Twitch, once again linked in the description below. Following and subscribing over there will not only support as well, but also give you notifications of when I go live if you want to catch some of the live streams. But really, no matter how you choose to support, it all adds up and it all definitely means the world. So thank you, each and every one of you. For now, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out. But more than that, I'm hoping that you have a fantastic day.